America's highways, ribbons of asphalt connecting bustling cities and sleepy towns. Millions traverse them every day, seeking adventure, opportunity, or simply a way home. But beneath the veneer of progress and freedom, a darker side lurks. A world where good intentions can lead to terrifying consequences, where a simple act of kindness can become a life-or-death struggle. This is the unsettling reality of roadside traps, where predators lie in wait, exploiting our empathy for their sinister gains. The woman, driving home alone on a desolate stretch of highway, noticed a young girl hitchhiking on the side of the road. She looked distressed, clutching a backpack and casting nervous glances at the passing cars. The woman's heart went out to her. She remembered her own daughter, the same age, and couldn't bear the thought of leaving her stranded. Little did she know this seemingly vulnerable teenager was a pawn in a twisted game. Hidden in the dense undergrowth, two men lay in wait, their eyes gleaming with malicious intent. They had orchestrated this scenario countless times before, preying on the kindness of strangers, and this time their trap was about to be sprung. The highway stretched out before her, a seemingly endless ribbon of asphalt under the fading light of the setting sun. The woman gripped the steering wheel, her mind torn. A wave of apprehension washed over her. Was it safe? She'd heard stories, whispers of highway ambushes, of good intentions gone wrong, but the girl's image lingered in her mind, the fear in her eyes, the vulnerability of her stance. She couldn't shake the feeling that ignoring her plea for help would be a betrayal of her own humanity. Slowly, cautiously, she steered her car onto the shoulder, a safe distance behind the girl. She rolled down her window just a crack, enough to be heard but maintaining a barrier between them. "Are you all right?" she called out, her voice a mixture of concern and caution. "My car broke down," the girl stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "Can you give me a ride to the nearest gas station? Please?" The woman hesitated, weighing her options. Her gaze darted from the girl to the darkening woods lining the highway, a primal sense of unease creeping up her spine. But before she could voice her concerns, a dark figure lunged from the trees behind the girl. The girl, no longer the damsel in distress, melted away from the roadside, a cruel smile spreading across her face. Another figure emerged from the trees, this one wielding a tire iron that glinted menacingly in the fading light. Fear, raw and consuming, paralyzed her. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. The man with the tire iron reached through the shattered window, his hand clamping down on her arm with a vice-like grip. He yanked her towards him, the jagged remnants of the window tearing at her skin. They dragged her out of the car and into the darkness of the woods, her screams swallowed by the dense foliage. The woman's car, its engine still idling, its hazard lights blinking a futile warning into the empty twilight, stood as a silent testament to the nightmare unfolding just beyond the reach of the highway's dim lights. They dragged her deeper into the woods, the undergrowth tearing at her clothes, her screams for help swallowed by the oppressive silence. The air grew thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves, a suffocating blanket stifling her cries. They finally threw her to the ground, a makeshift clearing in the heart of the woods, her body sore and bruised. The two men, their faces now clearly visible in the moonlight filtering through the trees, leered down at her, their eyes gleaming with a chilling mixture of amusement and malice. The girl, her role in the charade complete, had vanished, leaving the woman alone with her tormentors. She was trapped, at the mercy of these predators, with no hope of escape, no hope of rescue. The clearing, shrouded in an unnatural silence broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of an owl, became her prison. The men, their initial amusement fading into a cold, businesslike demeanor, had bound her hands and feet with coarse rope, the rough fibers biting into her skin. They tossed a moldy blanket at her, a meager shield against the damp earth and the encroaching chill of the night. Her mind raced, trying to make sense of the surreal horror that had become her reality. The image of the girl, her innocent facade crumbling into cold calculation, haunted her thoughts. The men, their faces now etched with a weariness that spoke of long nights and even darker deeds, built a fire at the edge of the clearing, the flickering flames casting dancing shadows that amplified her fear. Days turned into nights, each one a seemingly endless cycle of fear and despair. The men kept her bound, feeding her sparingly with scraps of food that did little to quell the gnawing hunger that consumed her. They spoke little, their conversations consisting of gruff exchanges in a language she didn't understand, their laughter when it came, a chilling sound that echoed through the trees. The rope that bound her wrists chafed, the rough fibers rubbing her skin raw. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and haunted by nightmares, the boundaries between her waking terror and her subconscious fears blurring into a terrifying tapestry of helplessness. She thought of her family, her friends, their faces swimming before her eyes like fading photographs. The thought of their grief, of the life she might never get to live again, fueled a desperate hope within her. Days turned into a week, her spirit ground down by the relentless monotony of captivity. The men, growing complacent, seemed to relax their guard, their conversations becoming louder, their laughter more frequent. One afternoon, while one of the men slept and the other rummaged through their supplies, she noticed a glint of sunlight reflecting off something near the edge of the clearing. Straining her neck, her heart pounding in her chest, she saw it. A shard of glass, a remnant of the shattered car window, lay half hidden in the undergrowth. Hope, a fragile flicker in the darkness of her despair, ignited within her. The afternoon sun, filtering through the canopy above, seemed to mock her efforts its warmth, a cruel reminder of the freedom she craved. The shard of glass, tantalizingly close, glinted invitingly, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness of her despair. Her captors, their guard relaxed, their voices a dull drone in the background, seemed oblivious to her struggle. With a final surge of adrenaline, she stretched her aching muscles, her fingers brushing against the sharp edge of the glass. Pain, sharp and immediate, shot through her hand, but she ignored it, her focus laser-like in its intensity. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to saw at the rough fibers binding her wrists. The rope, frayed and weakened, finally gave way the sudden release, sending a jolt of pain through her wrists. She stifled a cry, her heart pounding in her chest, her eyes darting nervously towards her captors. They were still oblivious, lost in their own world of casual cruelty. She quickly concealed the shard of glass, tucking it into the waistband of her pants, her fingers trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. She had to move quickly, decisively, before her captors realized what she had done. Taking a deep breath, she rose to her feet, her legs shaky from days of captivity. The fire crackled merrily, oblivious to the tension gripping the clearing. One of the men let out a raucous laugh, a jarring sound that grated on her nerves. It was now or never. Heart pounding in her chest, she made her move. She bolted towards the tree line, her bare feet slapping against the hard-packed earth. "Hey!" The shout, laced with surprise and anger, sliced through the stillness of the forest, jolting her captors into action. She didn't dare look back, didn't dare waste precious seconds to gauge their reaction. Adrenaline surged through her veins, propelling her forward, her lungs burning with exertion. The forest floor, littered with fallen branches and gnarled roots, became a treacherous obstacle course. She stumbled and fell, the impact jarring her bones, but she forced herself to her feet, her eyes blurry with tears and sweat, her lungs screaming for air. The shouts of her pursuers, their voices laced with rage and frustration, echoed through the trees, urging her onward. They were close, too close. She could hear them crashing through the undergrowth, their heavy breathing a terrifying counterpoint to the frantic beating of her own heart. The forest had become a hunting ground, and she was the prey. Nightfall descended, enveloping the forest in an inky blackness broken only by the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the dense canopy above. The sounds of the forest, once a source of comfort, now seemed amplified, distorted. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig sent shivers down her spine. She had no idea where she was going, no sense of direction, no compass to guide her. She stumbled forward, her bare feet cut and bleeding, her body a symphony of aches and pains. But she couldn't stop. To stop, to rest, would be to surrender to the darkness, to the fear that threatened to consume her. She ate berries and leaves, her stomach churning in protest, her body craving sustenance, but she couldn't afford to be picky. Hunger was a distant ache compared to the terror that gnawed at her insides. The knowledge that her captors were still out there, somewhere in the darkness, hunting her. The night stretched on, an eternity of fear and uncertainty. The forest, once a place of beauty and tranquility, had become her tormentor, a vast, unforgiving wilderness that held both the promise of escape and the threat of unimaginable danger. Dawn broke, painting the eastern sky in hues of pink and orange, a cruel mockery of hope in her exhausted state. She had been walking all night, driven by a primal instinct to survive, to escape the clutches of her tormentors. Her body ached, her feet were blistered and bleeding, but she couldn't give up. Not now. She stumbled upon a dirt road, a narrow ribbon of brown cutting through the endless green of the forest. Which way to go? Left or right? She had no idea, but she had to choose. Trusting her gut, she turned left, her heart pounding in her chest, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of civilization. The sun climbed higher in the sky, beating down on her with an almost physical force. She was exhausted, dehydrated, her vision blurring at the edges. Just when her resolve began to waver, she saw it, a plume of smoke rising in the distance, a beacon of hope in the vastness of the forest. With renewed determination, she staggered towards the smoke, her legs screaming in protest, her every thought focused on that single, flickering promise of salvation. She didn't dare believe, not yet, but a flicker of hope, fragile yet persistent, ignited within her weary heart. A farmhouse, its white paint peeling, its porch swing creaking gently in the breeze, materialized through the trees. She had never seen a sight so beautiful, so welcoming. Collapsing on the steps, she managed a weak cry for help, her voice hoarse, her throat parched, before darkness claimed her. She woke up in a hospital bed, her body swathed in bandages, her mind a jumble of fragmented memories. The kindness of strangers, the efficiency of the authorities, the relief in the eyes of her loved ones. It all washed over her in a tidal wave of emotion. The physical wounds healed, but the scars of her ordeal remained, etched deep within her psyche. The highway, once a symbol of freedom and adventure, now filled her with dread. The kindness of strangers, once a source of comfort, now carried the bitter aftertaste of betrayal. The highway hitchhiker trap, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of our everyday lives, had claimed its victim. But it had also forged within her a spirit of resilience, a steely determination to overcome adversity. The road to recovery would be long, arduous, but she would walk it, one step at a time, carrying with her the scars of her past and the hard-won wisdom of survival. The woman eventually returned home, her physical wounds healed, but the psychological scars lingered. The highway, once a symbol of freedom, now filled her with unease, a reminder of the fragility of safety. She found solace in her loved one's support. Yet, the world seemed different now, its shadows deeper. Driving carried anxiety, a heightened awareness of lurking dangers. The girl's face haunted her dreams, a cruel parody of empathy. The men remained faceless specters in her memories. The forest, once tranquil, now held chilling memories. Her story is a testament to the vulnerability of good intentions. Even in ordinary settings, danger can lurk just around the bend. Her story sparked fear and outrage, revealing how easily compassion can be exploited. The highway, once a symbol of freedom, now seemed fraught with unseen dangers. The incident forced many to confront a difficult truth about the consequences of well-intentioned actions. It ignited a debate about balancing compassion with vigilance. Some argued for prioritizing personal safety, while others feared losing our humanity. The highway hitchhiker trap, a chilling example of the dangers that can lurk beneath the surface of our everyday lives, serves as a stark reminder that even in the most mundane of settings, vigilance is paramount. While it is essential to retain our capacity for compassion, it is equally important to temper our good intentions with a healthy dose of caution. If you encounter someone seemingly stranded on the side of the road, trust your instincts. If something feels amiss, if the situation raises red flags, it is always best to err on the side of caution. Instead of stopping, consider these alternatives. Note the location and description of the person and their vehicle. Report the situation to the authorities by calling 911 or using a roadside assistance service. Drive to a safe location and observe the situation from a distance if possible. Remember, your safety and the safety of others should always come first. By being aware of the potential dangers and taking appropriate precautions, you can help to ensure that the open road remains a symbol of freedom and possibility, rather than a breeding ground for fear and uncertainty.